Good evening. It is March 22nd, and welcome to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Lauren Williamson. Last weekend, Harwich Police Department held their annual Polar Plunge for Special Olympics Massachusetts and raised over $50,000 this year. Take a look.
All right, let's give it up for our first one.
This is our fourth annual Polar Plunge for Special Olympics Massachusetts. The Harwich Police Department is a huge supporter of the Law Enforcement Torch Run. So that's a group of police officers from around the state that volunteer their time to put events on such as this. And obviously throughout the year, our biggest fundraiser is the Polar Plunge by far, between Special Olympics Massachusetts and Law Enforcement Torch Run. Those are the two groups. We work together to put on plunges during the winter throughout the state. And our goal this year, and we're almost there, as of today, we're at $930,000. Our goal is $1 million. So this is our fourth annual plunge in Harwich. Every year it continues to grow. It's becoming such a great community event. We are nearing $50,000 this morning. Our goal was $45,000. So having the community here, we're having a lot of businesses starting to support us. We just encourage year after year more support, more people to come down, and we even encourage those that don't want to even jump in the cold weather, the water. Come down, support us, support those who are running in. This year we have some great groups. We have a lot of athlete groups, a lot of team athlete groups from Special Olympics Massachusetts, who you'll see today. We also have, which is our largest fundraising group, is the Plymouth Police Academy. And there are about 58 recruits today from the Plymouth Academy, 4 of which are Harwich recruit officers, and we're very proud of them. They raised $18,000 for the plunge, which is outstanding.
This is going to be a double award winner because it's our top overall fundraising team and our top fundraising LETR team, Law Enforcement Torch Run team. As Kevin mentioned, raising over $18,000, our friends from the Plymouth Police Academy.
Yeah, if anybody just searches Harwich Polar Plunge, that will come right up on a Google search top, and they can get right on our fundraising page, and they can more than willing to make a donation if they'd like to, and we thank everybody.
A 26-year-old man was arrested in Plymouth last Friday night after a confrontation in Hyannis with his 41-year-old roommate ended in gunshots. Paolo Farias reported to police that after his roommate exposed himself to Farias' wife several times, he confronted the roommate, who then approached him with a pocket knife. Farias shot the roommate several times before fleeing to Plymouth, where he turned himself in shortly after. On Monday, he pleaded not guilty to his charges of assault with a dangerous weapon, assault to murder, assault and battery, as well as other gun-related charges. He's currently being held in Barnstable without bail. The owners of the Music Room in Yarmouth faced a judge last Thursday for failing to respond to requests for discovery in an ongoing bankruptcy case. This hearing is in connection with a $2.9 million lawsuit filed in October of last year, which alleged that Brian Serpone, principal owner of the Music Room, and his investment group, Levy Breaks, made fraudulent transfers of investment funds before declaring bankruptcy. Levy Breaks Investment Group filed for bankruptcy in October of 2021, leaving 77 creditors with $4 million in losses. Serpone opened the Music Room in May of 2021, 5 months prior to filing for bankruptcy. In July 2022, forensic auditors found millions of dollars in fraudulent transfers made to 4 bank accounts prior to the bankruptcy filing, with all 4 accounts linked to Serpone. The court requested from Serpone answers to discovery questions and documents in December, to which he repeatedly failed to respond. An expedited discovery conference has been scheduled to get these answers. Dennis's Don't Harm the Charm has a new name and a new mission. After months of negotiation, the group, now known as Preserve the Charm, must raise $1.5 million by May 1st in order to purchase the 1-acre parcel of land off of 6A between Cape Cod Creamery and Captain Ho's historic home. If Preserve the Charm doesn't meet their goal by the May 1st deadline, the developers will proceed with their plan of building a 20-unit apartment complex. Preserve the Charm wants to save the property from being clear-cut and densely developed, claiming that the development will destroy wildlife habitats, overwhelm the septic system, cause traffic congestion, and create watershed issues. Preserve the Charm hopes the Village Improvement Society of Dennis will be able to purchase the land, to place a protective overlay on the property to be permanently conserved and taken care of. Coming up after the break, Yarmouth begins their long-awaited wastewater project. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Cape Media News. I'm Lauren Williamson. Yarmouth made history last Thursday as work finally began on the wastewater project that has been years in the making. Many notable figures attended the groundbreaking ceremony, including Town Select Board members, state representatives, Massachusetts Senator Julian Cyr, and even U.S. Representative Bill Keating. Here's a look at what some officials had to say.
Ready?
Get set.
All right.
Go.
All right. All right, there we go.
The actions we are taking today to improve and protect and preserve the environmental quality of our coastal embayments hits at the heart of our core values in our beautiful coastal community. You see, this project not only preserves the environment that links to our heritage and culture here on Cape Cod, it also allows our town an opportunity to thrive by serving as a key to efforts to solve our local housing problems by way of providing the necessary infrastructure to support housing development.
It's a reflection of the town of Yarmouth and Yarmouth's residents' commitment to taking on one of the most significant and really daunting environmental challenges facing Cape Cod, which is the degradation of some of the Cape's critically valuable water resources due to excessive pollution, primarily nitrogen from septic systems. And everyone's familiar with the problems now. The nitrogen causes algae, weed growth, forces out finfish, shellfish species, results in coastal water bodies that just basically look bad, smell bad, fail to meet water quality standards. And in addition to the environmental problems, the water quality issue problems can also result in a decline in tourism, fishing, recreational opportunities, even residential property values. And ultimately, they really impact the character of Cape Cod and the quality of life for its residents and its visitors. The problems were created over a long period of time, and it's going to take a long period of time to address them. But taking action now, like the town is doing, is just so critically important to finally protecting and restoring the Cape's water resources.
A major city would look at the complexity of what was put together here, not just the logistics of doing it, but the financing of doing it. And they'd say, this is too big an undertaking to even consider. But a town did that. And a town had that hope and desire. And they worked through all the complications that are there, all the difficulties of coordinating things, and they did it.
So what we're doing today is hugely consequential for our environment, and it's also hugely consequential for the other big, thorny, existential crisis for us here on Cape Cod, which is housing. And for Cape Codders like me and of my generation, if you're not lucky to own a home here, and I'm not, I'm a renter, the ability to actually afford a life here in Yarmouth, afford a life certainly in my neck of the woods in Truro and Provincetown, is increasingly forestalled. And so what sewering allows us to do is to build and preserve the year-round housing that we're going to have to undertake to ensure that this is a year-round, vibrant community for generations to come.
This is teamwork. This is all about teamwork. But it's not just teamwork up here. It's teamwork over here. Because honestly, we're nothing without you. You're our bosses. And you're telling us what we want to get done. And this environment is so important. And I've lived on Cape Cod all my life. Of course, I'm from Osterville, but my beach is a few minutes down the street. And we got to make sure that we protect our beaches. And we got to make sure that we protect every family member that lives here or our children that want to live here in 20 years from now. So we got to make sure that we protect what we have. So doing this, having this project is so important and so relevant right now. And it should have been done in the 70s when we could have had it done, but the buck stops here. We're getting it done.
Yarmouth is clearly a town that's on the move. Whether it's from our partnerships that we've forged with the business community, now the regional school district, to enhanced infrastructure in our town, more recreational amenities and programs than we've ever seen, new parks, open space, and our improvements in local services across the board. We have a renewed sense of purpose here in town and a vitality that drives all of our efforts. Now, I want to tell you that energy and sense of purpose comes right from the top through our elected leadership on the town's select board. That's where the energy in this town is coming, by setting specific priorities and gently pushing all of us forward to achieve things we never thought we could achieve. This board today in Yarmouth is leading the way to a fantastic period in our town's history, and one I'm proud to be a part of.
Students were sent home early Tuesday morning after the active shooter alarm was triggered at the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School in Harwich. After a large emergency response was dispatched to the school, it was later determined to be a false alarm, making this the third time since December the active shooter alert was falsely triggered at the tech. While the first alarm in December was due to a faulty system, the second January trigger accidentally happened by a staff member. Robert Sanborn, the school superintendent, said that while they know Tuesday's alarm was triggered by someone in the school, it's still uncertain whether it was a mistake or on purpose. The incident remains under further investigation. Commercial fishermen who are sharing their primary fishing waters with Vineyard Wind may now be eligible for compensation through the Developers Fisheries Compensatory Mitigation Program. Many commercial fishers criticize Avangrid's wind projects, claiming that regulations they already deal with are limiting enough without the construction of the turbines. While fishing is still allowed in Avangrid's leased area, fishers are facing interruptions that cause detrimental losses. The Compensatory Mitigation Program aims to bring relief to fishers who may be affected by the construction of the wind turbines. To be eligible for compensation, fishers will need to show that they have fished within the project's lease area for at least 3 years between 2016 and 2022. Last Saturday, Centerville local and Barnstable High School graduate Megan Moore and her roommate Sydney Capolino were fatally shot in their home in Miami, Florida. Saturday morning, police arrived at the apartment to find what they believe is a double murder-suicide committed by 40-year-old Louis Naples. While police initially suggested that Naples and Moore were in a troubled romantic relationship, Moore's close friends and family deny this, stating that they were workplace acquaintances before Naples became obsessed towards Moore. The two young women graduated from New England College together, where they played on the hockey team. Megan's family share their appreciation to the Barnstable hockey community, who have been supportive during this time. Megan's wake and funeral arrangements have not yet been finalized. Coming up after the break, politics and sports. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Cape Media News. I'm Lauren Williamson. For our political updates, here's News Director Mitch Sock.
Thanks, Lauren. Last week, the DY School District Administration presented their reworked budget for fiscal year 25. Described by Superintendent Mark Smith as a perfect storm, the district budget originally came in at over $81 million. Factors contributing to this year's larger budget were staff-related contractual obligations related to cost of living adjustments, the ending of federal COVID relief funds, upward inflationary pressure, and lower than anticipated state aid. Both the towns of Dennis and Yarmouth had concerns about the amount over the standard 2.5% override they would need to be approved through town meeting. Yarmouth Town Administrator Bob Rittenauer suggested the possibility of using the district's E&D funds, or essentially the district's version of free cash, to help offset the cost of the increase to the towns over the next 3 years. Here's a summary of the steps taken by the district to reduce the operating budget to a more manageable override for the towns.
We've got revised information on the state aid, as well as the choice and charter information. We've looked at additional ways to offset with some projected local revenue information that David's taken some real close looks at. We've done a lot of the work which we've discussed in detail around how to right-size the district, which has led to overall staffing reductions. The very last time we were here, we talked about how we've looked really closely at the supply lines, and we were able to find an additional $100,000 in savings there. The school committee voted at the last meeting to use $500,000 in E&D towards the operating assessment, utilizing that plan over the next 3 years to step down $500,000 this year, $250,000 in the following year, and then $0 in the third year. And that has gotten us down to, from where we started in January, to a revised operating budget of almost 77 million, 76,890,501, which is again a reduction of over $2 million from where we started in January.
Now, I just want to make sure I'm clear. When you went to the staff reductions, can you go back to that slide? Yeah. I just want to make sure I got this right, because I saw a number 35. Is that correct? 35 staff reductions? That's a fairly significant number right there, I think. Yeah, so I appreciate it. I just want to make sure I'm reading the numbers correctly.
Yeah, like I said before, there's been a trend on the Cape for years of declining enrollment. And if you look at the trend line is of declining enrollment. However, in the last 3 years, DY has seen the number of students physically walking in the door has increased, with a market increase in the last year. It's the highest number we've had in 10 years, and it's holding steady. And I just want to emphasize this point that I would hazard a guess that we're probably the only town department that's cutting 5% of its staff when we have the highest service level that we've had in 10 years. And if this trend continues, it's just something we're going to need to keep an eye on as we move forward for future planning.
Both Dennis and Yarmouth Select Boards expressed gratitude for the effort put forth by Superintendent Mark Smith to work with the towns and being willing to collaborate. After presenting the revised budget to both Select Boards on Tuesday, the school committee voted on the budget the following night.
I move that the school committee adopt an FY 2025 budget of $80,899,651 with a transfer from E&D of $500,000 towards the operating budget.
We've discussed this obviously all multiple times at these meetings and also in meetings with the towns. There were presentations to both towns yesterday. So unless we have any further discussion or questions, we'll do a roll call vote on this, please. Phil?
Yes.
Tomas?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So thank you, David. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, everyone. This was a long and tedious process, but we all appreciate the work that you have all put into this, and I'm feeling positive about the relationships with the towns and moving forward. So thank you very much.
The extreme competition for real estate on the Cape is prompting local officials to find new ways to boost year-round residency. As the housing crisis continues, a Chatham citizen petition has been placed on the warrant, and if approved by state legislator, would allow the town to negotiate payments to property owners in exchange for restricting their homes to year-round occupancy. Last February, Senator Julian Cyr filed similar legislation with Provincetown and Truro, prompting Chatham Select Board to send a letter of support to show state legislators that the Cape has interest in and a need for this program. Select Board members weighed in before voting to support the petition.
I think there are three things I want to say here. First of all, it's my understanding that Senator Cyr was interested in having as many towns as possible adopt this or something like this as a show of support in Boston with the general court. And so I think this is a good thing on that front. The second thing is that it's a tool in the toolbox. This is not a solution to the problem, but it's another aspect of the various things that we want to have in our, as I said, toolbox to begin to address the issues that we all know exist around basically developing more of a year-round economy here in Chatham as well as on the Cape. And then finally, this has a market mechanism to it. This is not something that's being imposed. This is just a vehicle that allows people to, as part of the process of either building or just in a private transaction, selling essentially a limitation in the deed for what presumably will be a market rate. And so I think on all fronts, this is something that is a good thing for us to do.
Shreen.
There's been several conversations throughout the year with Senator Sears making presentations to various towns. I know that this came out of Select Board member Sandberg in Provincetown had worked with Senator Sears to initiate the Cape Town-wide sort of a presentation. So I'm really in favor of this. As Mike said, it is a tool that we can use. How the program gets set up and how it gets funded is something we will be working on probably going forward if it gets approved, but I'm in favor of it.
Additional questions or comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion to approve, or our motion to approve, yeah. Recommend, right, because it's automatically placed on the warrant,
Right.
so, yep. So,
I move to recommend the citizen petition article.
Second,
okay, further discussion, all those in favor, Select Board Member DeCastro.
Aye.
Select Board Member Davis.
Aye.
Select Board Member Dykens.
Aye.
Select Board Member Shell.
Aye.
And Select Board Member Metter says aye.
That's going to do it for politics this week. Back to you, Lauren.
Finally, Ryan Downs is here with a summary of all the action this week in sports.
Thanks, Lauren. Last week we left off talking about the #1 ranked Nauset boys hockey team's historic season and their upcoming state championship at TD Garden. Although Nauset entered the game on a 19-game win streak, unfortunately they suffered a 1-0 loss to the number 6 seed Marblehead. Marblehead scored the game's only goal midway through the first period. Throughout the game, Nauset couldn't capitalize on scoring opportunities, hitting the goal frame multiple times. Marblehead's goalie finished with 37 total saves. However, after an Elite 8 loss in 2023, Nauset bounced back to reach the state championship this season at the TD Garden. In 2 years with coach Connor Brickley at helm, Nauset has won 40 total games and emerged as a statewide power. After the game, Brickley had said, "Those guys did everything we wanted them to do. It's not like they did anything different from our games past. We played our team game, we limited the opportunities against, controlled most of the game, and got a lot of offensive zone face-offs. It's hard, but the guys know they played our game. Congrats to the boys on a fantastic season." After 4 years away due to COVID-19, the Cape Cod High School All-Star Basketball Game came back this past Sunday, March 17th. The All-Star Game was created by Al Faria, a 1961 Barnstable High School graduate and longtime official. The first girls' game was held in 1985, and the boys' debut came in 1987. For the last 35 years, the games have had the current format of pitting the best players from the Upper Cape against those from the Lower Cape. The teams of 15 players are selected by Faria from a list compiled by athletic directors and head coaches, with at least one player from each school. The Lower Cape team was narrowly defeated with a final score of 74-71. The Lower Cape team was represented by Barnstable's Chloe Egan and Molly Gleason, Dennis Yarmouth's Chloe Azoff, Sienna Laus, and Jaylene Pierce, Monomoy's AJ Gates and Susanna Brown, Nauset's Jordan Streitmeyer, and St. John Paul II's Devin Crawford and Marlo Jumper. Streitmeyer posted a team-high 17 points, knocking down 5 three-pointers on her way to being named the most valuable player for the Lower Cape All-Star team. The Lower Cape boys squad, which earned a 119-103 victory, was represented by Barnstable's Cal Adeza and Gabe Pichardo, Cape Tech's Trevor Ryan, Dennis Yarmouth's Connor Boziak, Trey McPherson, and Elijah Searwright, Monomoy's Jackson Rocco and Tamar Washington, Nauset's Joseph Berardi, St. John Paul's Maki Gordon, and Sturgis's East Jason Gunn. Tamar Washington, Monomoy's junior point guard, was named the most valuable player after he finished with 20 points. And last but not least, we have the start of spring sports. Most team seasons don't start for another week or so, but there'll be plenty of action on the Cape this weekend with some scrimmages. For Barnstable, baseball hosts Peabody Veterans this Saturday at 12 p.m. Girls Lax has a home scrimmage this Saturday at 9:30 a.m., and softball has a home scrimmage against Sandwich on Monday at 3:30 p.m. And DY has a home doubleheader scrimmage for baseball on Saturday starting at 1 p.m. That's it for this week's sports update. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you for joining us this evening. If you have a story that you would like to see covered, send us an email at newstip@capemedia.org. Tune in every week for more hyperlocal news that matters on Channel 26, Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media, including Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. For Cape Media News, I'm Lauren Williamson. See you next week.